This podcast is sponsored by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce, announcing the return of the Midwest Economic Outlook Summit February 8th, in partnership with 25 co-hosting chambers and communities across 5 states. The summit will bring together industry leaders, policymakers, and economic experts from across the nation to discuss pressing issues facing the Midwest region and country. Learn more at fmwfchamber.com.
Hey there, everyone. You're listening to the Inforum Business Beat podcast. This is your host, Thomas Evanella. This week on the show, I'll be sitting down with Chris Brungardt, the CEO of the Fargo Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Fargo Housing made the news recently with the completion of their Elliott Place affordable senior housing complex. Elliott Place, which is located along 45th Street South in Fargo, contains 84 units of 1 and 2 bedroom housing for low-income seniors over the age of 55. It's safe to say that the community is excited about the addition of Elliott Place. Back when I first reported on the project in 2021, I received calls from readers even months after the story had been published asking me for more information. Now that Elliott Place is open, Chris is here to discuss the residents as well as what else Fargo Housing has on the horizon. So with all that said, let's hear from Chris. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Monday in Fargo, and it's bright and sunny out, and who can complain?
Right in the middle of January, who can complain about that?
No, it's gonna be 30, man. It's like summer.
And so, first things first, we're here to talk about Elliott Place. So, tell us about Elliott Place. You've been involved with this project pretty much since the beginning, from what you told myself and forum photographer Chris Flynn when we dropped by. Walk us through how it all came together.
Well, there's a severe lack of senior housing in North Dakota. They see that as a statewide issue as it's getting more and more shortage of housing for seniors over 55. And so people here, just my predecessors, took a look at and went and found a piece of land to put up a 55 plus building. So throughout all the different machinations of design and trying to find all the different financing these things are insanely difficult. And we finally got it built. It's an 84 unit multifamily senior housing development with all the different amenities for people to enjoy their retirement.
And tell us about some of the amenities of the building and the philosophy behind the design of the building.
Well, the design of the building is first of all 55 plus. So all the units meet universal design. So there's universal design elements for accessibility. So we all have the roll-in showers, the countertops are certain height. There's areas for people in wheelchairs. Now there's also fully ADA accessible units. Also, 20% of the units are fully ADA accessible, but every unit meets a certain minimum requirement for universal design. The different types of amenities in there. We have underground parking. We have a food service area on the first floor, community rooms. We have a community room on every floor. We have 2 or 3 lounges in every floor. We have a fireside lounge. We have a game room up on the top. There's an exercise room. That we have an outdoor burning fire pit. Natural gas fire pit on outdoor patio in the back with barbecue grills. So we try to make everyone have all the different amenities of market rate, but at an affordable price.
Right. And you're rattling off some of those amenities. I mean, underground parking, fitness room, fireplace outside. It kind of sounds like we're talking about any old new apartment in Fargo.
Right. And that's the whole goal. I mean, just because you're retired on a fixed income doesn't mean you shouldn't have the same amenities as everyone else. It's kind of like I kind of think of housing as a human right, and there's certain dignity that everyone should have.
And so tell us more about the statistics that sort of backed your decision or Fargo Housing's decision to build Elliott Place. You say there's a strong need for affordable housing in general, but senior affordable housing specifically. Dive into that a little bit for us.
Well, North Dakota Housing Finance Agency is a state government agency, kind of keeps their pulse on all the current housing issues statewide. The Fargo Planning Office, they have real good idea what's going on in the Fargo area. But the state kind of takes surveys. They bring in all the statisticians, the people with the Census Bureau, their life death models, outgration and ingration, or whatever they want to call those things. And they have a pretty good model of the population. And what they're seeing is there's a grain of North Dakota. There's a grain in the United States, and it's affecting everything from housing to transportation. How big do your street signs need to be for people with aging eyes? So they recognize that there's a grain of North Dakota, and there's a lack of affordable senior housing, because a lot of people, as they go on to become retired, they're on that fixed income. And we all see living here in Fargo that our property taxes are going up, the cost of living is going up, and just the maintenance on houses get to be very expensive. So what is that alternative for people to move into?
And one of the things that you told me about Elliott Place that I found pretty fascinating when we visited is that part of the benefit here too is obviously helping people find affordable housing, but also you're in a sense helping to turn over some of the housing stock for potential new home buyers. Tell us, kind of explain more about that.
That's kind of like a side benefit. If you think of some of the older areas of Fargo, North Fargo, when we have that existing housing stock out there, a lot of these areas may be, owner occupied by people who've retired, and they have these larger homes, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms. They find that they don't need the large house. They don't need the upkeep. They don't need to shovel the driveway in the winter. So they need to find ways for them to be able to move. And with these new affordable options that are coming out there, these seniors can move into an affordable affordable apartment building like Elliott Place, and then they can sell their home, and then that could go to a new young family or somebody who's getting ready to start a family, and then they can start having that neighborhood become revitalized again, and children start showing up and going to the middle schools and the elementary and the high schools. And I think you see in Fargo, there's an issue of the older areas of Fargo are the high schools and schools are becoming empty, and how do you get kids back in those areas? So this is kind of like the whole idea is open up that housing stock for people who want larger homes and start families.
Right. And I think that's a really interesting secondary benefit of all of this too, is that that effect kind of downstream, that all of a sudden more houses start opening up and becoming available for people to buy because people had an option to move into. That's exactly it, is people needed, those people may want to move, but they needed an option, and now they sort of have that with Elliott Place.
I mean, I see it in my own neighborhood, and I live in West Fargo. And when I moved to my house, I didn't have kids yet, and I raised my family there, and I've seen my neighbors come and go, and more kids move in, and people retire and go on their way. So it's the whole natural revitalization of a neighborhood.
And Chris, you've been involved with Fargo Housing for a few years now. Tell us what your tenure with the organization has been like.
Oh, well, tell you what, it's a marvel being able to come to work every day and help people with the basic need, finding housing. There's always those little pearls, those little stories about finding someone and getting them into that house. But it's just it's a great benefit. Fargo Housing Organization they do great work. I mean, getting people who need housing or need affordable housing, maybe that's more of the way to have it out there, that and get them into a home that they can afford, or housing they can afford. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, the earmark we use is if you pay more than 30% of your income towards housing, you're housing stressed, because you have all the other bills that go along with it. You shouldn't have to pay 40, 50% of your income towards housing. And that's what our government programs that we have. We have the Section 8 vouchers, actually called housing choice vouchers now. They want to get rid of that bad stigma. We have public housing, and you move into these units, and you pay 30% of your income towards your housing. So if you make, $1,500 a month for in income, you pay $450 for your housing. So it works out pretty well, and you get single parents with families, and even larger families that move into our 4-bedroom homes, and it's just great seeing them in there and be successful.
And how does it feel to kind of see Elliott Place be completed now and be welcoming residents? I feel like this is a big addition for Fargo housing.
Oh, it's a huge addition. It's 84 units. That's a lot of seniors getting housing that's needed. That's 84 more seniors that aren't overpaying for their housing right now, or it's 84 seniors that opened up their current housing for others. It's a great opportunity. We have more housing projects in the pipeline, but just seeing that those people out there being successful. I mean, I keep saying successful. I enjoying themselves. You were out there, Thomas. You came walking in the lobby, and you saw 2-3 people congregating there with a coffee pot. I guess that's what we do in North Dakota. Is we sit around, we talk, and drink coffee, right?
Right. And so you sort of hit on this right there. Elliott Place is a great addition, but you have a few other projects that you're working on. Tell us about some of those and what's up next for Fargo Housing.
Well, the next big project's coming up is Lashwitz Riverfront. If everyone's familiar with the downtown Fargo skyline, and you see the big 22-story building, that's an old public housing building, and it's empty right now. It was 247 single bedroom units, and these bedrooms were tiny. They were concrete cinder block, and I think they were like 340 total square feet for an entire unit. And that's the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, and the bedroom. 340 square feet. It's like a dorm room. It's like we're housing people. We don't have much space for you. We're going to go stick you in slot A. And it just wasn't how people should live. And, is 50, 60 years old. It was finished being constructed in, I believe, 1969, named after Herschel Lashkowitz, was the mayor at the time that started the Fargo housing, the entire public housing in Fargo area. So that's one of the reasons why we're keeping the name. And it outlived its functional and its physical obsolescence. It got to the point the repair of that was going to be more than to tear it down and build more. Give you an example, it had cast iron water and sewer pipes. And now all that cast iron, think it was 60 years old. Well, that's all worn away. It was all rusted, it's corroded. And there's just water main breaks left and right. And you just, you have to replace the entire system. So it was like, $9 million to repair it all compared to bringing it down and building new. So what we're planning to do, we're getting ready to sign the contract here. We need to take out, about 2,000 tons of asbestos out of the place first. So we have to abate the asbestos out. That's what they did back in the 60s. They put asbestos in everything. We got to abate all that out. Then we're going to implode it. So we're actually going to have them explode it and drop the thing down. I'm using my hands. And I hope everyone can see that. And so we're imploding it. We're looking about an August time frame to actually blow this thing up and haul it out. And amazing thing is most of this building's can be recycled. So the metal's being pulled. They're going to pull all the metal. The brick and the concrete are all going to be recycled, be crushed and replaced as aggregate and your sub base for roads and put back into new concrete. And then we're putting up 110 unit 1, 2, and 3 bedroom family housing. So we're not age restricting it or anything like that. So it's another 110 units coming out, and it's going to be across the street from the river. And we're talking about amenities. It doesn't take a lot extra to get these basic amenities in there. And we're going to have a rooftop patio on the second floor overlooking the Red River. So it's right there in Dyke West. And I think, we're looking at even putting solar panels on the roof to even make it more green. So we want to keep progressing. Not only do we want to add more housing, but we want to make it as carbon neutral as possible and make it sustainable. So it's all those issues.
And overall, then, tell us about the picture of affordable housing here in Fargo, and how much has that changed during your time with Fargo Housing?
Well, I'd be remiss if I said I'm the only one that's doing affordable housing here, but there's other developers that are dabbling in affordable housing also, and even the statewide, you're starting to see a lot more growth. But the whole idea is there's incentives put out there through the IRS called tax credits. And I think everyone's familiar with tax credits, but this is low income housing tax credits. They're called LIHTC tax credits, and they're 4 and 9% tax credits, and they're competitive. And so let's give you a whole idea. Is if you're an investor and you want to go buy these tax credits, I'm going to buy $1 million of tax credits and 9%. That means each year I get 9% of my interest back in tax credits. So that's fairly substantial, but so their benefit of deferring their taxes, it makes us able to actually build cheaper buildings because they're buying those tax credits. So that's the tax incentive to build affordable housing. So there's a lot of people chasing these things, and there's some trends that we're trying to push out, like inclusive housing is start looking at ways to not have that barrier that we build an entire building that's just affordable housing, but we are able to mix different income levels and unit types in the same building, so we just live as a community together. And I think that's someplace we want to get to. At least I would love to see it, and we have to work with our elected officials if there's a way that if you're getting any type of tax benefit, that you should give back to the community. So there's some ideas out there how to tackle some of our issues.
So overall, it sounds like you all have a lot on your plate going on for the next couple of years then.
Exactly. So we got the last Schwitz coming up here this year. We're blowing that up and starting new construction. We have an area that we call 14-4, which was actually a name of one of the asset management apps. That's what HUD calls one of our public housing areas. But it's a 3-acre parcel of land down on 18th Street and 25th Avenue South. And we want to take currently there's 14 duplexes there. They're kind of the same. No, they've lived their lifespan. And we want to take those out and probably put back in 60 to 80 units of family housing there. We're actually even discussing the possibility of putting a daycare in that place. And then if you live in the unit, you get some cheaper daycare. It's because that's one of the big things that's a quality of life issue. And we're trying to do everything as a community. And then after that, after 14-4, we have some older buildings down here we call the Burrell and Colonial that are over on 4th and 4th. And the Burrell's a groovy old building, built in, I think, 1896, and it has those walk-up porches on front. We're going to keep that building. There's no way I'm going to tear down some beauty like that. But it needs a lot of rehab on the inside. But behind it is a shoebox. It looks like a shoebox. It's a 100-year-old shoebox, but we're got a nice parcel of land downtown Fargo, and let's get some affordable housing downtown that has the same type of amenities. Even a little aside on that, North Dakota NDSU architectural class, I think was their 3rd-year students, actually did some design scenarios on this, and they used it as their final project last year. And it's kind of neat seeing what these students come up with and just get the next generation thinking about affordable housing and community.
And once again, that was Chris Brungardt of the Fargo Housing and Redevelopment Authority, who, as we've learned, is a very busy man now, joining us here on the Inforum Business Beat podcast. For my full story on Elliott Place, be sure to visit inforum.com/business. But otherwise, Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
I loved it.
Once again, I want to thank Chris Brungardt of the Fargo Housing and Redevelopment Authority for giving us an inside look at Elliott Place and the latest from his organization. And that's going to finish off this week's edition of the Inforum Business Beat podcast. This has been your host, Thomas Evanella. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. Also, be sure to check inforum.com/business for everything from our business team.
Don't you hate when you forget something important? Grandma's birthday, the password to your old laptop, or picking up little Timmy from hockey practice? It's okay, we've all been there. Let us take one thing off your mind this year with Giving Hearts Day scheduled giving. Starting January 2nd, you can give to one of hundreds of charitable causes before the big day. You can even pledge to volunteer if that's your thing. Visit givingheartsday.org and help someone in your community today.